Good evening, everyone. Glad to see you all. Sorry for cutting off the Heart Sutra by 2 verses. My bad. So, um, I hope you're having a good week, and we're gonna pick up where we left off with our teachings on the Bardo, going into the teachings of continuing on with the teachings of the Bardo states in this life, and we're going to move on to the Bardo of Dreams tonight. But before we do that, let's take a moment to again center ourselves, take a couple of deep breaths, and just let go of anything that's preoccupying you so you can empty your preconceived ideas, notions, opinions, whatever you might be entertaining, or whatever is kind of just preoccupying your mind. Although I don't think that's very much right now after we finished a nice 45, 50-minute meditation session. So we want to try to become an adequate, even a superior vessel for the teachings of the Buddha Dharma. We want to listen to them. Then once listened to, we think about them, contemplate them, resolve in our minds any discrepancies, any hesitations we might have that we can develop faith in the teachings of the Buddha, and then again put them into practice in our daily lives. To what end? Again, to the benefit of ourselves and other sentient beings, which is the primary motivation for us as Mahayana practitioners, that we approach everything with bodhicitta. Bodhicitta, the enlightenment mind, and the enlightenment mind primordially is considered to be, from a relative perspective, paying attention to others and their needs. So with that in mind, we can refresh our memories for what we were doing last week. So again, we've been studying the Bardo states and the Bardo of this life. Last week, we talked about the Bardo of meditation, which is, again, something that we can do in this life, that is defined by boundaries. A Bardo state, in a sense, is the space between two boundaries. So the meditation state is the boundary between unconsciousness, we could say, and our ordinary everyday mind, right? So generally speaking, the Bardo of this life has many other opportunities for experiencing shunyata. And again, this is a state that's characterized by our consciousness being spontaneously present, that mindful awareness has the ability to be able to permeate this space between the boundaries of one occurrence and another. Or as another way of other enlightened masters have put it, it's a way of experiencing things just as they are. Just as they are. And that's primarily what we attempt to do when we start to meditate. We're not trying to judge, we're not trying to characterize, we're not trying to name anything. We just sit in suchness. And this is a way of expressing these experiences that are without mental commentary, again, ornamentation or judgment, anything engaging our mental faculties other than the recognition that something is happening. So that's a way that we can talk about meditation as experiencing shunyata in this life. And then tonight, we're going to start to talk about the intermediary state of dreams. So the Bardo of the Dreams. So this is our sleep life. This is also quite important because characteristically, it shares much in common with the death bardos. In both death and the dream state, it is difficult for us to know and recognize that we are experiencing it. We're kind of caught up in it. We're caught up in the reality of it, like we are caught up in the reality of our waking lives. We don't often, if ever, catch ourselves in our dreams and recognize that we are dreaming. But we can actually try to cultivate this sort of recognition in our sleep state and recognize that, in fact, we are dreaming. Because once we do this, then we have the ability to be able to say, oh, this is a dream. I can kind of do what I want with it. We can shape the dream experience. We're no longer caught up in it and subject to the dream itself controlling what is going on. During the dream state, during sleep, all of the senses dissolve into the consciousness. And then we experience a state in deep sleep where there is no conscious feeling at all. And then what happens is, due to karma, our conditioning, and the karmic winds, the illusory elements from our experiences then gather, and then we have the experience of dreams. And as it is for dreaming, it is for dying as well. If we can recognize that we are dying and practice up to the point of death and after death, it is possible to maintain conscious awareness after death and be aware of the process of the last three bardos through our mindful aware state. So being able to recognize the illusory nature of a dream while you experience it is also a way that we can transform the dream from just some sort of nighttime occurrence or entertainment into actual practice. Just like in the daytime, we can continue to recognize the deluded states of our mind as we experience life. Once we meditate for a while and we have the ability to bring the experiences from our meditation into our waking life and remind ourselves constantly about what's going on, and that things in our waking lives are permeated by impermanence, change, dependent, and they are dependently arisen, and characteristically, therefore, from our own analysis and point of view of Buddha Dharma, empty. So it's the same with dreams as well. Although they seem to be so real, we wake up after and then only then realize it was just a mental occurrence. But just because it was a mental fabrication doesn't mean that it was any more or less real than it would have happened in our conscious state in the daytime. And that's why the enlightened Buddhist masters say, we make this distinction between waking life and dreams, but it's also a very kind of arbitrary distinction, because the waking life is still very much like a dream. So in Tantric Buddhist traditions, it's considered very important to extend our practice into the dream life. Consequently, there are teachings on dream yoga, and there are practice methods used to learn to dream vividly. And when we dream in this way, we can wake up in the dream and realize that we are dreaming, and then use the time to continue to practice, acknowledging the illusory nature of the dream that you're experiencing. The instructions on how to do this type of practice are varied. Tonight, I'll talk about one of the easiest ones to try. And that practice is just to simply maintain mindful awareness like we would in meditation into as we enter into a sleep state. We just try to be. We try to, like, rather than being carried into unconsciousness, we try to be mindful of how sleepy we are and how we feel our cognizance kind of, as we fall asleep, becoming sleepy and being mindful of what's going on, very much like we do in our normal meditations. In normal meditation, we try to also, when we start to feel a little bit, like sleepy, we recognize that, and then we can in our meditations, we change, posture a little bit, change our breathing a little bit so that we can maintain equilibrium. Same thing if we experience too much mental agitation in our meditations, we're mindful of that. And then we can apply the appropriate antidote to, again, establish mental equilibrium. So we try to do that also when we go to sleep, that we are mindfully going to sleep, trying to pay attention to either the physical or mental sensations and processes that are occurring without getting drawn into them, just acknowledging them and experiencing them, but being aware of what is happening. So next time, this is of course a little bit more difficult than it seems, but with practice, if you try to, it's just like anything, like learning the piano with meditation and all of these techniques, they just require persistence and regular practice. Next time, we'll clarify a little bit more and talk a little bit more about some of the dream yoga practices, so we can get a little bit of a better idea of other things that we might do so that we don't just have one tool in our kit to use. But for tonight, let's finish up now by reciting the refuges and the sharing of merits.